Heading over there now? So they're heading over. You all don't get to leave, but Elise does because she has to go help set up, because along with this, she's also at Indie Fringe where we're going afterwards.
She's really leaving because of that six.
So now she won't win. So, next up, David Blomenberg, right? Said that right. Lives and works in Indianapolis. Taught at Purdue and DePaul, is that correct? Written, spent time as a bank teller, street singer. I don't even know how to say this. Furniture, how do you say it?
De-upholsterer.
De-upholsterer. Oh, I'm thinking that's German. I'm like, what's it? I should have put a little dash in the D. That would have made a whole lot more sense. Whatever, shut up. Glass cutter, window glazer, carnival concierge. I like this. Waiter, florist. So obviously he does poetry, right? And essays. His poetry, has been published in the Poetry Salzburg Review, Confrontation, Artifice, Tulane Review, and elsewhere. And you're going to be telling a story, interpersonal relations and home improvement?
Well, we're going to call it actually The Best and Brightest.
All right. We'll call it The Best and Brightest. David.
No fun without music, no music without fun. This is the motto of the Purdue University Varsity Glee Club, of which I was a member. And I was not having fun. In fact, I was freezing my ass off. And I've been freezing my ass off ever since we got on the damn ferry to get to the Statue of Liberty. And here we were, stuck there, and I couldn't even form words correctly. And the director had us all stick together in formation. We're always in formation. And we are in front of a bank of cameras with various members of the Purdue traveling band. We had groupies. Purdue Glee Club groupies. That was nice. And tourists. And he immediately launches forth with a note, which meant that we all had to sing a song. And in front of all of these people, with numb faces, he starts us off on the national anthem. I'm miserable. But I thought, that actually sounds like a pretty good choice, given the locale. So we're singing the national anthem, and as we are singing, a park ranger comes up to Brian, our director, who, if he actually got a song, he sold it, and he sold it hard. He got his background with with Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians, and never seemed to get enough stage time. So we're singing, and the park ranger comes up and he says, "Please stop." And Brian looks at him while he's directing and while we're singing, and he gives him that, "Aw shucks, why you gotta be a dick." And we continue singing. He says, "This is illegal and unlawful assembly. If you continue, we will ask you to be taken from the island. You will be arrested and taken from the island. We have a redux of the OSHA. Why you gotta be a dick? Look." We continue singing. I don't want to sing now. But someone is in the process of directing us, and we have to sing. And we continue singing. The man turns purple. He moves his jacket back. He has a holster. I thought they armed the park rangers. And he sits there, turns purple, and goes, "Shut the fuck up now!" And we still are singing. And we get to the point where we have the big phrase, "the land of the free and the home of the brave." And he's directing us and he goes, "Scatter!" Which we do like roaches. And we go right into the statue and up the double helix staircase, and I'm thinking, really, what in the world was that about? Meanwhile, he's up there trying to make some sort of show of, oh, this was all just in fun, talking to the park ranger. And we get up to the bonkers bedroom that is the statue's head, with the little windows, and I'm trying to peek out those tiny windows that are in the crown, and I can't see out. But I would like to see if he's actually being escorted away from the island, as Jake promised. The Purdue Varsity Glee Club was really something that had quite a bit of prestige back up to the 40s, and didn't really at the time that I was in. But we got to sing for all of the university's fundraising campaigns. We got to meet esteemed alumni such as Orville Redenbacher, Neil Armstrong, various astronauts, and we had a good deal of military snap. You did not get to say yes, no, or okay. You answered to other people in Glee Club with yes, sir, no, sir. You had to, in our various banquet appearances, we had to sit at a table with people that had to be seated. You would actually have to get up at the same time a woman got up to help her with her chair. She can't handle a chair on her own. If she asks for salt, you must pass the salt and pepper together, place the pepper and the salt. You could never eat a dinner roll like an apple. They had to be broken into pieces. So these were all things that I learned early on, before I went to New York. I was given the information about the Glee Club from the most unlikely of sources. It was the biggest stoner in my dorm, who, when he would walk in, he would show up at 9 or 11 at night in a full swallowtail coat and white tie. And I asked, what on earth are you doing? He said, I'm in the Glee Club. You should join, man. You get to travel, you know, meet people, old folks. So later on that summer, when I was painting closets at a dorm for money, I found out from Tim, his name, that they were doing auditions, and they were closed auditions. So I didn't hear it from him. So I called and said, do they have slots free? They said, well, the slots are reserved. Are you in there? I said, oh yes, I was just checking to see. What about the dress code? No dress code. Fine. I sat there next to people that inexplicably were dressed in cable knit sweaters in June, with their scores of Mendelssohn and Handel. And when I walked in, I didn't have any sheet music. They said, what are you going to sing? And I said, how about a song by Captain Intonil? Yeah. So I did. And then they asked me to sing the national anthem in ascending keys, and I was in. And thank you. I made it. So we would do these fundraising appearances where we would have to sit. And it wasn't that we had any control over our appearances. We had so many things, so many rules, such as all hair had to be 1/4 inch off of the ear, 1/2 inch off of the collar. No glasses on stage. For me, that was difficult. Yeah. And then, as we sit at the table, we were expected to be good conversation. We had to memorize various items of Purdue trivia. For example, the year in which Purdue was founded, 1869. The year that the Glee Club was founded, 1906 or so. Other things that we picked up along the way were not good points of conversation, such as the fact that John Purdue, the man that founded the university, died of apoplexy, of Victorian euphemism for alcoholic seizures, or that his grave on campus is one of the most urinated sites in Indiana. But we would often have to be essentially tuxedoed geisha girls, where we would have to have conversation and everything would be lovely and pleasant. And one of the women that we sat next to was the last heir of the Ball fortune. She had been doing this, and she had been doing this dinner scene longer than we've been alive. Her house, the family's house, still is on 9th Street Hill, and she leaned over to one of the Glee Clubbers and said something. He turned bright red, and then he put his hands on either side of his plate, and while we waited for the director to eat, because we couldn't eat first, we had to wait for him to take the first bite, he would then, he didn't speak for the rest of the dinner. We all looked over at Ms. Ball, and she said, perfectly composed, I suppose you're wondering what I've just said to this fine young man over here. And what I was wondering was, in some cultures, for example ours, if you are waiting to eat, which you obviously are, you should be sitting with your hands in your lap. However, in other cultures, you are to sit with your hands on the table, because if your hands are not visible, it's assumed that you are masturbating. What do you suppose that says about our culture? Could you please pass the roll? So, with all of that in mind, sorry.
It was going so well.
It was going so well, sorry.
Oh my God.
One of the other things that we did was I noticed as we sang, there was so little control over what we could actually do. They chose the songs. They chose the repertoire. They chose how we dressed. They chose what we did. And when we would tour with the president would tell us to pick up his luggage and carry it over to the belt, or to pick it up. As we sang, the more I realized that as we went, this was simply a way to pay for college. I was singing what my director actually called schmaltz 115 times a year to alums, to gathered exterminators at the Adams Mark Hotel. And it wasn't really about music anymore. It wasn't fun. And by the time I graduated, I never wanted to hear another Cole Porter song again. And so when I actually went back to teach at Purdue, I thought, maybe I should go back. Maybe I should see what the rehearsal's like. And in spite of all of this feeling that it was all about control, it was all about power, I should see what there is. And when I went back, it was all yes sir, no sir, perfect haircuts, perfect composure. All of the nightmares came back. And then they asked me to sing. Just like that. And I thought, well, what should I do? I decided on the Captain and Tennille song. You're always looking for the worst side of a good thing. But don't you know there's nothing gonna hurt you as long as your soul can sing. And then I asked if they had Tim's address. And they did. I looked him up. He was now part of a Fish tribute band. His curly hair had expanded to an enormous afro. And I called him up. And he said, "Are you still singing?" And I said, "No." He said, "You oughta. Because you know, It's fun. Music is fun.
Fun fact, I interviewed Daryl Dragon, who is who?
The captain.
When I was at Wired, and I asked him what he thought about his music, and he said he wished that they would melt all his records down because he hated them. He did it for Tony. That's why he did that music.
And then they divorced.
I know.
It's sad.
It's hard to bring everybody down after that. I think we're going to have singing tonight. I think this is a singing evening.
I'll say 9.5, but do I have to be first every time?
I
It's
can
not
make
fair.
I'll stick to my decimals here. 8.75.
God, you're making me do math. This is
Yeah.
awful. This is my punishment. Oh, you moved. Shit. Got closer for the destruction.
Don't blink, my friend.
Don't really.
Oh, you know what? What the hell?
I'm gonna give it 10.
Wow. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. He's kind of erratic.
I know he is. He's a wild card. He's the Charlie Day wild
He's the
card.
Charlie Day.
If you don't watch It's Always Sunny, that shit didn't make any sense. Our third author. You ready? This is Amy, who I just met tonight. How do you say your